Recently, flat earther Austin Witsit was on InfoWars with Harrison Smith, and Austin had so much misinformation that it just needs to be addressed, and it's going to take a little while. Here's what Austin said.
You can 100% prove the Earth is not moving. It was done in 1887 with the Michelson-Morley, and it's been replicated many times since then. And what happened was they brought in Albert Einstein, flipped physics all on its head to keep the Earth moving around the sun. And that's why all physics is at a standstill now, because they threw out the electrical field theory understanding of a background medium, or what is called the ether. They kept the Earth moving through space. And now we have, this compartmentalization of physics that doesn't all work together. So
Austin is talking about the 1887 experiment published by Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, where they were testing the hypothesis of the ether, or what they also sometimes called the undulating theory of light. This was not a test of whether or not the Earth was in motion, as many flat earthers like to frame it as. That had been determined about 150 years prior in an experiment by James Bradley in 1727, where he measured the aberration of light. And you can see Michelson and Morley talking about that exact experiment in the two opening sentences of their own paper. The discovery of the aberration of light was soon followed by an explanation according to the emission theory. The effect was attributed to a simple composition of the velocity of light with the velocity of the Earth in its orbit. The emission theory of light was popular in Newton's time and in the 1700s as that light is particles, just particles. And for good reason, it acts like that in many ways. And they're looking at the composition of the speed of the Earth and the speed of light together, because as light comes towards the receiver, if you're moving, then it appears to come in at an angle. And as you're moving in different directions, it appears to come in at a different angle. This causes stars to trace small circles in the sky. So this was determined in 1727, and it is the pinnacle or seminal measurement of the Earth in orbit around the sun. So there was no question for 150 years of whether or not the sun was moving around the Earth. And there's several other experiments that confirmed this as well. So Michelson-Morley weren't testing whether or not that was happening. They were testing whether or not the ether exists at all, and using the known motion of the Earth around the sun to do that. And their experiment did not come up with a positive result. It had a very small measurement. It didn't quite match the direction expected. And they don't do at the time, they weren't doing error analysis, but the instrument wasn't fine enough to measure the specific movement. Since then, many hundreds of experiments have been done similarly at exceedingly greater precision than Michelson and Morley did. And they've all come out with the same type of answer. Within the margin of error of their instrument, there is no motion of the ether measured.
And what happened was they brought in Albert Einstein, flipped physics all on its head to keep the Earth moving around the sun.
When Austin says they brought in Albert Einstein, who is they? Now, Einstein was a Jew. Is he suggesting that does this lead to the early 1940s in Germany? That's a different video. I won't be touching that right now. Anyway, he says that Albert Einstein flipped physics on its head, and he absolutely did. According to Thomas Kuhn's Structures of Scientific Revolutions, that's what was needed. See, when hypotheses start to fall apart, and you test something and it doesn't work, you test it again, it doesn't work, test again, there's something due. There's time for a revolution. And so, yes, Albert Einstein did, in fact, flip physics on his head for the good. It led to many new understandings, and science was able to move forward. This test by Michelson and Morley was not a test of whether or not the Earth moved. The Earth had been determined to be moving centuries before, and there's four important seminal experiments, not just James Bradley in 1727, but also the annual Doppler shift measurement by Vogel and Schneier in 1887, the stellar parallax measurement in 1839 by Friedrich Bessel, and Ole Romer in 1676 had determined that there's a difference in the time of one of Jupiter's moons to be eclipsed by Jupiter's shadow. And those are all different things that confirm that the Earth is in motion. I'll link all of those in the description in YouTube. So Michelson and Morley's experiment did not invalidate any of them. It did not touch any of them. And the only thing that what flat earthers do is they assume that the ether exists, and then they only focus on that one experiment. And that's horribly dishonest because they don't address any of those other experiments, which completely are incompatible with their ideas of ether.
And that's why all physics is at a standstill now, because they threw out the electrical field theory understanding of a background medium, or what is called the ether. They kept the Earth moving through space.
So by throwing out the electrical field theory understanding of a background medium called the ether, well, that was for a good reason, because there was no empirical evidence for it and it didn't match anything. But science is not at a standstill now. Science is moving faster than ever. And since Einstein came along, quantum physics is a result of his understanding. And if it wasn't for quantum physics, the computer you're watching on right now wouldn't work at all. So definitely physics did not come to a standstill. It's moving ahead very fine. Thank you.
And now we have, this compartmentalization of physics that doesn't all work together.
And this is a very curious thing. What compartmentalization of physics? People in physics talk to each other all the time. There's a huge amount of crosstalk. There are people that are interdisciplinary in physics. There's nothing at all about physics that is really a problem where anybody would say they don't work together. The different aspects of physics work together very well. I think that he misunderstands that there are the forefronts of physics where we don't understand things and we are doing experiments to try to build our understanding. For example, dark matter and dark energy. These are hypotheses that are in the forefront of our understanding of things. They're not part of science in the fact that it's not part of the model yet. It's a hypothesis that's not yet been confirmed. There's a lot of evidence for those. And there are some other competing hypotheses for the different observations that they're exploring. But that doesn't mean that there's some breakdown in physics. As you get to more and more complicated physics, it takes more effort to figure them out. So that's not surprising at all. Anyway, I think that this explains very well. Be sure to check out the link in the description. I will cover some more of Witsit's misinformation in this debate in the future. Be sure to subscribe so you know when that happens.